Hardtalk is on the road in Benghazi, Libya. I'm Stephen Sacker. This city has been ripped apart by 6 years of conflict. Thousands have been killed, tens of thousands have fled. Eastern Libya and the West are run by rival political institutions, but there is now something resembling a functioning authority here, imposed by the military strongman in Eastern Libya, Marshal Khalifa Haftar. Can the commander who once served Gaddafi pull Libya back from the brink? My journey to Libya starts with a little piece of history. The first scheduled flight bound for Benghazi in 3 years.
50, 40, 30, 20.
The city's airport was closed down by heavy fighting in 2014. Back then, jihadists seized most of the city. Those days are over. Thank you.
Okay, bye.
Merhaba, hi. So here we have one small sign of normality returning to one Libyan city. The terminal building is nothing but a shed. There aren't many flights. But to the people of Benghazi, this feels like the lifting of a siege. This is what the war left behind. Entire neighborhoods of Benghazi deserted, reduced to rubble. Ganfuda was one of the last redoubts of so-called Islamic State. Benghazi University was scene of some of the fiercest fighting. This once splendid campus, built by German architects in the 1950s, was turned into a military base and training camp by the jihadists. This university used to be the pride of Benghazi. Now it's just rotting in the sun. It will need a massive reconstruction effort to revive this place, and there's no sign of it starting. The origins of the chaos can be found in 2011. Colonel Gaddafi's planned assault on an uprising in Benghazi brought Western powers into a conflict which ended in his overthrow. With Gaddafi gone, President Sarkozy of France and Prime Minister Cameron of Britain rushed to Benghazi to claim credit.
Colonel Gaddafi said he would hunt you down like rats, but you showed the courage of lions, and we salute your courage.
But the feel-good factor was fleeting.
رددوا الله أكبر إنه النصر المبين إنها خلافة البشرى ووعد ويقين.
ونصر الله إن نحكم شرع الله في هذه الأرض في ليبيا الطاهرة، ونحن على إمارة إسلامية بإذن الله تعالى، ونسأل الله التوفيق والدعاء للأخوة جميع الأخوة على مستوى العالم، الدعاء ونسأل الله أن يسهل والله أكبر لله.
Post-Gaddafi, Libya plunged into anarchy. In Benghazi, radical Islamist factions took control. They killed the US ambassador. In 2014, a fightback against the jihadists began in eastern Libya. It was led by this man, Khalifa Haftar, a top general in Gaddafi's army, until the two men fell out in the late 1980s. Hiftar took charge of the self-proclaimed Libyan National Army and vowed to liberate Benghazi from the Islamist militants. It took him 3 years. Only now are residents who fled the Ganfouda neighborhood making a tentative return. This man, Abdullah, agrees to show me around. This was your house? How do you feel now when you look at it?
الحمد لله بالنسبه لي قناعه شخصيه الحمد لله عارف هو الحاجه المؤمن المصاب المهم تهدى البلاد ويهدى الوطن وتلتم البلاد ان شاء الله بقدرته كله يتعوض لكن الوطن هو اللي ما يتعوضش عارف فهذه تعتبر تضحيه منا نحن حتى نحن شاركنا تضحيه عرفت فتحملنا شيء هذا وباذن الله كله يرتد ان شاء الله بامر الله.
But this whole neighborhood has been ruined. Look around. There's no way for anybody to live here now, is there?
لا في كله بادين ها الحوش هذا في صيانه بادين فيه اللي من غادي ساكنين من غادي الحوش من غادي ساكنين حتى هم بادين صيانه.
The last 3 years of fighting in Benghazi took thousands of lives and forced tens of thousands out of their homes. The Amnati family are now rebuilding their house, but some things can't be restored. Mohammed's 19-year-old brother was executed, beheaded by the militants. How can you be sure that the war will not return? If we look around your neighborhood, it is destroyed, so it seems crazy to spend so much money rebuilding here. So if I come back in 5 years' time, what is Ganfouda going to look like? There's no mistaking who's in charge in Benghazi now. Marshal Hiftar glowers down from 1,000 billboards. Hiftar and his army see their victory here as a turning point for Libya. Order replacing chaos, thanks to military rule. In downtown Benghazi, there are still checkpoints and no-go areas. For much of the conflict, the front line between the jihadists and Hiftar's forces ran alongside the Tebesti Hotel, which looms over the city centre. Close by, we found a gaggle of vocal supporters of the man they call their saviour.
For more than 3 years, we've been suffering as people of Benghazi. Thousands of people had been displaced, but now, luckily, alhamdulillah, fortunately, they're back to their homes because of the in the safe hands of the Libyan army under the command of Khalifa Haftar.
What do you want to happen now? Do you want to see Marshal Hiftar marching to Tripoli with the Libyan National Army?
They want him to be the president of Libya because what he promised,
but he would be a dictator.
He's not a dictator. No. In 3 years, this guy had given the freedom and the confidence not only for army officers, but for police, for intelligence, for internal security. Everything.
You really think
he gave us peace?
You really think he would be a good president for this country?
He is truly a good leader.
Libya is a country of desert, vast distances, and disparate tribes. It's also a land rich in oil and gas. The reserves are pumped to the coast, the so-called oil crescent. This is Brega, a sprawling oil and gas processing complex run by Surt Oil, part of the National Oil Company, the NOC, owned by the state.
Already here?
Yeah. Awad Nu guides me round this aging plant. Are they monitoring emissions from the chimneys, or and how clean is it? Because it's not a new plant, so...
It depends on the fuel.
Oil wealth was the glue that held Gaddafi's fiefdom together.
then from the vibe still does.
After his demise, the jihadists tried to get their hands on this vital asset. They failed. And now Marshal Haftar's army rules the Oil Crescent. There have been times over the past 6 years when it's looked like the violence and political chaos in Libya could shut down this vital industry, but it has never quite happened. The oil and the gas is still flowing. But as for the revenues being generated, well, much of the money is being creamed off by different warlords and militias. I've looked around your facilities. Seems to me you have equipment from the 1950s, 1960s.
Yes, you are right, yeah.
You need a lot of investment.
Yes, yes, you are right.
Who is going to give you the money?
Yeah, NOC. As usual, NOC.
But they're not giving you money, are they?
There is a problem with the money, yeah. You know, the political situation, Libya now, two government, two army like this.
It sounds from what you're saying as though it is currently impossible for you to develop this facility.
Yeah, for the time being, yes. Without investment, capital investment, or without money, we cannot do anything. Only we're trying to keep the oil company alive.
But this is a disaster for Libya because oil and gas is the lifeblood of your country.
Yeah, of course, it's a disaster, and this disaster started since 2011. But now there is improvement. We feel there is improvement. You know, now east of Libya completely controlled by Mr. Haftar, and south of Libya as well. Still just part of west of Libya that's controlled by militia. I think in the nearest future, all this problem will be solved, inshallah.
And as you sit here with me today, are you confident they will?
Inshallah.
Libya TV, based in Benghazi, is projecting a message of change.
القائد العام للقوات المسلحة يستقبل أهالي المفقودين ويصدر تعليماته بمعاملة أهاليهم وأهالي الشهداء معاملة خاصة.
The outside world associates Libya with images of violence, terrorism, and people smuggling. But here, they lead the news with Marshal Haftar's latest pronouncements on terrorists vanquished and order restored. But this is what you don't see on Libya TV. Disturbing evidence has surfaced on the internet of Haftar's forces seemingly conducting summary executions. The International Criminal Court is investigating this as a war crime and has issued an arrest warrant for the officer in charge. Ahmed, you say that you report the truth to the people, but how independent are you?
لا توجد أي ضغوطات من قبل القوات المسلحة ولا أيضا الجهات الرسمية للدولة لكي يعني يكون لدينا مثلا ضغوطات في نقل خبر ما ولا نتغاضى يعني تكرارا وتمرارا لا نتغاضى على أي حدث يصير أو يحدث داخل ليبيا.
The UN yesterday issued a report which expressed very serious concern about allegations with evidence of war crimes committed by the Libyan National Army during their operations in Ghanfouda in March of this year. Is your network free to report and investigate those allegations?
نعم بداية نحن عرضنا هذا الموضوع بين القوات المسلحة والقيادة العامة للقوات المسلحة المتمثل أيضا في الحاكم العسكري ورئيس الأركان للقوات المسلحة قد يعني انتقد هذا الموضوع وقد يعني قال أو أسردت القيادة بأنها أعمال فردية لا تمت للعسكريين بالسلاح. هذه الجماعات عندما تقوم بهذه الأعمال لربما يعني لا نرتقي لمستواهم وكذلك القوات المسلحة انتقدت هذا العمل ولكن نبين لك بأن القوات المسلحة يعني لا ترتقي لمستوى الجريمة.
There are people inside Libya and outside Libya who worry that Marshal Haftar is a military man and he may end up moving to Tripoli and seeking the leadership of this country. As a journalist, do you think it would be very dangerous for Libya to have, as the nation's leader, a military man, not a civilian politician?
كان الشعب الليبي وأيضا الجبهة الشعبية تريد وتطالب بحفتر أنه هو يكون رئيسا للبلاد، فلا مشكلة ولا غبار على ذلك. هذا من جانب، ومن جانب آخر لا أرى في مشكلة بأن خليفة حفتر يقود البلاد لسببين. السبب الأول لديه حنكة سياسية، وتعلمون أنتم جيدا تفاصيل ذلك.
There are pockets of normality in Benghazi, places where the tide of violence seems to have been stemmed. But the calm of the beach can't disguise an undercurrent of tension. Our movements in the city have to be coordinated with Marshal Haftar's military command. It is a city of checkpoints, security patrols, and plainclothes agents. When we tried to film food being handed out to the poor, we were stopped. I came here on the promise of a rare interview with Marshal Haftar, but he changed his mind. He cancelled at the last minute. He presents himself as a defender of freedom, but it seems he doesn't welcome scrutiny of his own record. Last month, Marshal Haftar went to Paris to meet Fayez Sarraj, Prime Minister of the rival Tripoli-based government. With President Macron acting as matchmaker, the Libyan rivals committed themselves to a ceasefire and nationwide elections next year. But Haftar's army now controls 3/4 of Libyan territory. He and his eastern government think they can call the shots. Do you believe in a political solution to Libya's problems, or do you think there will have to be a military solution? Because your man, Marshal Haftar, appears to believe that in the end, he will have to provide the military solution.
Mr. Haftar is engaged in a political process, and he is playing ball with the international community and with his compatriots.
But he's a soldier, he's not a politician.
But he's also concerned about rebuilding the authority of the state over our national territories, because the authority of the state has been rebuffed in favor of militia who have had the upper hand, who are sending terrorists to neighboring countries. In June 2015, 27 UK nationals were slaughtered, were killed by a terrorist, Tunisian terrorist, who was trained in Western Libya, in which right now we have a GNA.
If I may say so, Minister, this is your attempt to paint yourselves in the East, General Haftar and all of his associates, as the defenders of Western interests. But that's not going to work, is it? Because the West has looked at Haftar and they believe they see a man they cannot trust.
I think he is increasingly trusted. He has had many meetings with Western ambassadors here in Libya who came to see him and abroad. I don't think that I would agree with your contention.
Well, I think what diplomats do is they look at Haftar's record, they look at how he conducts his operations, and they look at what is happening in Benghazi. You will have read the latest UN report suggesting that as Haftar moved his forces back into Benghazi, there were egregious abuses of human rights. That's something that worries the international community.
And that worries us too. These reports came out and he voiced his concern, and he said that he would address them by investigating these people who have been committing these acts, these outlawed acts.
Have you seen those videos and pictures, Minister, of people being shot in the back of the head, bound, hand and feet, executed?
Unfortunately, I have seen them. These acts should stop, and I'm sure that the army staff will look into that seriously, because of the wrongdoing that we have witnessed.
But let us be blunt and honest here, Foreign Minister. You sit here with me as a civilian minister, politician,
yes,
but you don't call the shots here. It's the military that calls the shots, led by Marshal Haftar. And let me quote to you, the Economist Intelligence Unit, looking at what's happening on the ground in the east, they say it looks like there is a drift to authoritarianism. The Carnegie Endowment for International Peace talks of, quote, militarization of governance in the east of Libya. That is the reality.
Libyans do need that law and order because of the chaos, as I said, that has so far prevailed, especially since 2014.
You say there's evidence that the GNA government is tolerating terrorism, and you say that there's evidence that Qatar, for example, has been supporting terrorism in the west of Libya. But I haven't seen any evidence to back up your claims. Where is the evidence?
There were some shipments of weapons who have been sent by Qatar in Tripoli, in Misrata. We know that.
But what I know and what I have seen as cast iron evidence is the shipments of arms that have come to you from Egypt, from the UAE. You know, you seem to be focused on the Qatari connection in the West, when in fact there's a quite clear Egyptian, UAE, Saudi connection here in the East. Those are clearly violations of the UN weapons embargo, and they're weapons that have been coming to you.
I'm not privy to those details. I'm not
well, you're the so-called foreign minister.
But I'm not involved with military affairs. I cannot corroborate what you have just said. But I know that there is a great deal of support that has been provided by Egypt and the Emirates.
I'm mindful that in 2011, the Libyan people rose up in a revolution against a long-time dictator, Muammar Gaddafi. Sometimes it looks as though, in the figure of Khalifa Haftar, Libya might once again be flirting with a potential dictator.
Libya will flirt with a president who will be duly elected by its own people.
The world wants a peaceful, united, safe Libya where terrorism is eradicated.
Yes.
Do you think we are going to see that in the next 1-2 years?
I think I am hopeful, optimistic about that, because there is a great deal of will among Libyans that we should put an end to this split of Libya, to the fact that we have two governments, and indeed to put an end to this chaos that we have suffered from.
Benghazi's top football team, Al Ahly, are preparing for the new season. Remarkably, through all the years of violence, the Libyan National League has kept going. One semblance of unity amid the division and chaos. A generation of young Libyan men have grown up with guns, militias, and war. In eastern Libya, Marshal Haftar is seen as a warrior and a winner. But on the other side of this crippled country, his ultimate victory seems much less certain.